Hello and welcome. We all heard about term EV ready, but what it actually means. Who can have the title? What property or the businesses are entitled to call themselves an EV ready property? Well, to answer these questions, we have today a special guest, Kimberly Gray, a commercial real estate agent out of Dallas, Texas. So welcome to our show and thank you for the time that you find for us.
Good to be here.
Let's start today's show with introduction and tell us a bit of you and your real estate experience and how you see the world changing and adopting the EV industry.
Well, I started property management in 1999, actually in Lexington, Kentucky, while I was in college. And I've done everything from a leasing agent to a property manager to a regional supervisor who helped to go over budgets and find these capital assets that were needed for the properties and the money to go towards them. And then I'm now a commercial agent. So I know both sides of that. And I think that there's a big need for chargers to be on site and on properties, and actually every commercial property should be thinking about it. And it's lost revenue if they're not. And I think that it's a great time to get in on this whole EV ready thing.
So just wanted to tackle right now when you just said that, the property owner should think about this, but what are the main challenges that commercial property owners face the most when they're trying to become an EV ready property and to implement this infrastructure?
So I think, lack of knowledge is probably the first thing that we need to overcome. And so the more knowledgeable that people are, the managers are, and the supervisors are, the property owners are about the influx of electric vehicles that are coming out this fall and next year, that's one thing that needs to happen. But then secondly, some might struggle with understanding the necessity of capital spending up front, but the question has become, how much are you willing to lose rather than how much does it cost? Because it's a very small investment for a large return and for a long-term return. And so I think that as long as it's budgeted well, that the installation of the chargers that go into commercial properties are usually L2s, and they're very inexpensive options out there, and the installation for those aren't super massive or involved either. So those can be done fairly inexpensive as far as capital expenditures go for the life term. I was also a commercial building inspector also and so I did 7-year and 10-year capital expenditures for budgets, and this is something that's going to bring in new residents, in the residents it's going to attract are those that are driving Teslas, that are spending the money on the EVs that are coming out. These are people right now are usually of a higher income rate. But, as that shifts and changes and lower income individuals are able to purchase them, they've got to have some place to charge, and they're not going to want to live anywhere where they can't charge. So, especially for multifamily units, if you don't have them, and say I was looking for an apartment, and the one on the left was the one that I really wanted, and it was bougie and had everything, but it didn't have electric vehicle chargers, I'm going to probably choose the one on the right that's a little bit older, may not have all the amenities that I want, and because I can charge at night when I sleep, and I don't have to add an extra 30 minutes or add an additional hour onto my my commute in the mornings, because that's a big deal. Like, time is the only thing that we can't buy back or earn back in our lives, and time is money. So I don't want to sit there on the way to work to do that. I want to do it at home.
And exactly what you just said. I mean, in California, for example, I had an experience that a lot of clients and the customers coming to us were mainly because they had a problem of losing the tenants exactly because they were not EV ready. They did not have those amenities for those tenants, that they had electric vehicles. And they just, as you said, they didn't want to lose their time or trying to search around different properties where actually to find the public charging stations. So that's
Right.
a big
And
problem.
I
So
don't think it's a amenity anymore. I think that it's more
Necessity.
a necessity. Yeah.
Correct. So let me ask you on this. Or explain to us and our listeners, what actually means to the owner to be in a way registered as an EV ready property.
Well, I think that I think that some properties are putting in like a charger or two. I don't think that's enough. I think that I know that in Illinois they just passed a law that I'm pretty sure it's like one EV space per.
They made it mandatory for all new construction sites and all ongoing developments. They will need to implement by mandatory an EV, and it has to be EV adaptation regardless of people want it or not. The legislation is there and law is there.
Right. And what it will do is encourage the adoption of electric vehicles, and because the more availability we have of infrastructure, especially when we're charging at night where we live and where we work, the more people are going to be more apt to make the change. And so I think that having them available at property, I think that there needs to be consideration for maybe like one every 4 spaces is what, or one, maybe not one per unit like in Illinois, down here in Texas right now, but I think that it needs to be future proofed where it can be added, more can be added very easily. So to go ahead and spend the expense up front and then just add them as you need them.
Exactly, and for that reason, I always say, at least strategically to the people and the property owners, prepare yourself for the future, add extra because you will need it. And this is not gonna go away. If anything, it's gonna just maybe be more on demand and grow. So.
Right. We don't want residents fighting over car spaces.
Exactly, and it already happens. Believe me, in California, I already saw people were actually even being in a fist fights for the parking spot. Yeah. They thought that they legitimately belonged to them, or they were first over there for a charge and so on. So, but let me ask you. So, or to at least you can explain to our listeners and property owners who are in a commercial business or just like businesses. So, what would be their main commercial property owners benefits to implement EV infrastructure within their properties or the businesses?
So, commercial property owners outside of multifamily units, such as like strip mall unit owners that have multiple tenants, this is going to be a big deal because people want to plug in while they shop. This isn't like a gas station where you just go in and you grab gas, and this is like it takes time. So
exactly, it's not quick in and out.
Right. So, and I can say I've been an electric vehicle owner for several years, and I've driven across the country many, 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 many times. It can be done, and it is kind of a pain right now because there's not a whole lot of industry, a lot of retail or anything around the chargers. They're usually placed behind a hotel. There needs to be other things available, like if I'm going across country and I'm going to see a friend that I haven't seen in 20 years, on my last charge, I might like get my nails done or my hair done or whatever. So these are things that can be around, and everybody that owns parking lots needs to think about how much it can increase the business traffic that is that they are losing right now to businesses that do have EV chargers or are going to have EV chargers. So if you're the first one in the area that has EV chargers implemented in your parking lot, you're going to attract all of that new business and that loyalty from those business customers. And whether those are shoppers or, are using services that your tenants offer or whatever. So, that's an increased value to the lease. And so therefore you can offer your leases at a higher rate, more dollars per square foot to your tenants, new tenants coming in. It's a great way to advertise also because there's advertising mechanisms out there that are in addition to the EV chargers that can advertise for the businesses. There's a lot of ways to make additional revenue on it, and it's a great opportunity, especially if you're the first one in the area with them.
So to basically summarize what you just said, it's for those commercial property owners or businesses, they should think proactively now and prepare themselves for the future. Yes, we all know it is not that inexpensive equipment, and it does require some of the upfront cost for this, right? But however, like if they strategically place themselves right now into this EV infrastructure and prepare their properties being ready, down the line in the future, they're going to be way more advanced and in a better position than any other properties next door to them.
Right, right. And really the idea, I think, is to grab the loyalty of customers now, because
Yes.
Those who are driving electric vehicles already we're diehard electric vehicle drivers. We're not going back to gas. We can't go back to gas. I did try once. It was unsuccessful, and I had my car for 2 weeks before I traded it in for another electric vehicle. And so if you get our loyalty now, then you've got a whole new customer base just from this season of electric vehicle drivers.
Kimberly, let me ask you, so let's just stay on this thematic because we are talking about commercial property owners, and we are actually, and you are recommending this service to be, done rather now than later. So what would be the potential challenges or issues that should commercial property owners consider when integrating the EV charging stations into their existing infrastructure, or if they have to, by any chance, of course, create an additional, because we do know that a lot of these properties are built a long time ago. Infrastructure is outdated, and there's a lot of implementation that needs to be done to prepare actually this type of infrastructure for them.
Yeah, I mean, so the energy availability is obviously an issue. So it's right now, one of the reasons why it's so important to jump on this right now is because there's an availability of electricians, and you can get those site surveys done, and the equipment isn't on back order, and there's all these incentives and rebates right now for property owners to install them. And I think that the longer that people wait, the longer they're going to have to wait past that. So the equipment is going to start being on, there's so much product and supply. And so once the ordering starts happening, the electricians are going to be on short. And,
well, we are right now already experience in this. I'm not going to say only in EV industry, but just in overall, in general, electrical, let's say, complexity of any type of project's work. It is the shortage of the material. We do not, it's very difficult to get, let's say, the transformers. I know for a fact for the transformers, in some instances, you have to wait for about 40 plus weeks. Certain specialized panels, switch gears, all that electrical equipment. Plus on the utility companies, at this moment, I know that for the LADWP, the time to wait for somebody to actually come to your property and add on or actually improve your facilities, it takes about 1.5 years right now.
Wow. Yeah, so that's definitely incentive to go ahead and get that budgeted in and get those placed now.
So what would be your recommendation, let's say, to the general population, how to navigate the complexities of electrical infrastructure upgrades and utility coordination that may be required to support EV charging stations within their properties? So what is your recommendation to that?
I think that a turnkey solution company is a good way to go, because they have a good understanding of supply chain and where there's things happening in that supply and demand, and they have the electricians available. They know how to schedule them, what needs to be done, and they're experienced already enough. And sometimes they can even pull up your property on whether it's Google Earth or whatever, or plans that they can get a hold of through the tax districts or whatever, and do an overall survey, maybe even remotely, so that doesn't take so much time. And so I think a turnkey solutions company is the way to go for that.
Yeah, and I do kind of agree with that. Yes, there are a lot of electrical companies there, and they do know their work, and they're not incompetent of creation all this. But the problem that is the biggest of this electrification and preparation of the infrastructure in a EV industry, I find that is the main issue is the paperwork and all the necessity that you need to actually put in for certain applications that you're going to be able to get all those rebates, grants, tax incentives, everything that is over there available, but it's very difficult actually to get. to it.
Yes. Yes.
But let me ask you, so are there any specific regulations or permits that commercial properties owners need to be aware of when installing the EV charging stations? And how do they ensure the compliance? I mean, we do know that one of the compliances and the most easiest way would be to go actually with the one-stop shop company, right? And but what would be, let's say, for example, for those people that they would like to potentially do that on their own, what they would need to do, who they would need to
Well, I think
partner with?
it's important to know that they all need to be UL certified. That's our standard certification in America. And then also, electricians are. There is a program called EVIT, I believe, or EVITP or something.
Yes,
that
CVITP.
It's kind of a training course for the electricians who are already electricians to go through so that they understand the requirements and the needs of EV charging and how to future-proof a property. And so I think it's really important for a company that you hire to have that training as well, so to be EVIT or EVITP certified as well.
Well, my understanding that is becoming more and more as a mandatory, and EVITP, I believe, so it's on a federal level. So most of the electricians, they would need to kind of get the certification within their state of the electrical certification that they possess. So it is kind of a vast need of
Undertaking.
exactly. So let me ask you. So what would be the most common misconceptions surrounding the installation and maintenance of the EV charging stations within the properties or businesses, and how would you address them?
The most common misconception, I believe, is that you don't need them or that you can wait.
Yeah, I'll need them tomorrow.
Right. And so I think that is going to be too late. And I think that it's a common misconception because we don't see, especially in the southern states, we don't see a whole lot. We're starting to see more and more Teslas in Texas because after Elon Musk opened up the Gigafactory and down near Austin, but there's all the automakers are coming out with whole lines of electric vehicles. Most of them have promised to go all electric by 2030. And the few that are left are going to be that way by 2035. So there's going to be more and more and more out there. And then those who don't think that they need a regular maintenance program for the chargers, I just want you to think about a gas station attendant who is always, so their gas stations, even if they close at night, are open during the day. So there's an attendant there. There's usually not an attendant at an electric vehicle station. It's not necessary, but the attendant during the day makes sure that there's water, in the windshield wiper buckets, makes sure that the trash is clean, that there's not, broken things on the dispensers of fuel. There's all kinds of things that can happen. Right now, a lot of our chargers are being installed where there's not covering. And so before we get that covering figured out, and there's a lot of things that the sun affects that I think that maintenance could probably deter or take care of by just doing a routine assessment of the station, wiping things down, making sure it's clean. The site isn't.
Yeah, but in some instances, for example, that is almost impossible. Well, not impossible, but very rarely, for example, for those remote locations where, let's say, next to the freeways where, like interstate roads and stuff like that, where you have the rest areas, where I do not believe that you have that many common visitation for any type of a maintenance to be done.
Yeah, no, it's definitely an additional service that needs to be
created.
Yeah, and so it's extremely important for that service. I think I just made a trip from LA to Dallas, and in every charging station I went to had at least two out of four chargers weren't working at that time, and it's because of simple things that could have been caught by a maintenance service, like cracked handles. Well, those are things that don't really cause the machines not to work, but there are numbers that can be called, and there's different solutions now. I think that a lot of the software can be taken care of remotely, but it's just pulling up to a site and there being, the cables laying on the ground, or the screen being sunburned, or it being hot to the touch and not really, it doesn't feel very good to pick it up and put it in. Just things that a regular maintenance service can take care of, or can notify someone who can send the appropriate person out, or to tell them, hey, this needs to be replaced, or to have items on them in their vehicles that they can replace, because a lot of that stuff doesn't take an electrician to do. The replacement of filters once a year, the replacement of cables, handles, stuff like that really can be done by just someone who's been given, like OSHA training and, just safety training or generally, and that just wipes it down and makes it where we can see the phone numbers if we have trouble plugging in or unplugging or whatever the case may be.
Okay, let's tackle on some positiveness on all this. I believe so. Everything what we talk, it's actually positive, and this is a positive thing that's happening. But of course, like we said, there are issues and problems that people need to be aware and address them. But I would like to ask you also if there is an example of your successful EV infrastructure integration that you have worked in the past, and the positive outcome achieved to the property owners, and just kind of feedback on that.
Well, I've worked with a lot of resellers and of products and manufacturers that are wanting to move over to to start manufacturing in America. And I speak to a lot of them. I've spoken to a lot of people as I charge, actually, that also own EVs that are also driving across the country. And a lot of them are, excited about the chargers being installed. It's a big push. It's a big move. Every time a new station pops up, any of us in the area that have an EV are excited because there's not lines at I know that like down the Tesla station that I used to use when I first got back to Texas last March, never had anybody there. And then within 6 months, by October of last year, there were waiting lines, and there were 10 dispensers there. There were waiting lines for the chargers. And so yesterday I was driving through there, and I noticed that they had put 10 or 20 more chargers in the lot next to it. So now there's Tesla drivers in all of them. I couldn't believe how many cars were there charging. So, so for anyone thinking that it takes a long time to turn around and make the revenue off of these, it is building up. And the energy costs are of course going to go up. And then we can charge more, like anybody would for any, service, or to make a little bit of a profit, and I think definitely the opportunity for revenue is there. I think we're definitely, as an EV driver and owner, I'm definitely excited when these go in, more of them go in, I think the people that are making money already off of them are excited because it's bringing in the traffic, and it's bringing, in a gas station alone, that is, Texas is, proud of, here, there is a influx of customers at any given time in the store, and the money that I save, really, it's kind of funny, like, I save a lot of money not buying fuel right now by owning an EV, but I will turn around and spend that money in the store that is next to me while my EV is charging.
So in that essence, what would be your final message to the owners and management groups, or any other entity for this ongoing electrification? So
I think that, we have touched on this, throughout the podcast. The supply there's not an endless supply of product. There's not, we're still gathering materials and so there's a limited, supply there, and we need to order them now, because we're going to gain the loyalty of a new customer base by doing so. And we want to catch that early on. So, I instruct my property owners that have parking lots right now that you want to grab the loyalty of those who already have the electric vehicles now, because they're never going to not have an electric vehicle in the future. They're always going to trade up or trade for another electric vehicle. And so if you can grab those of us who have electric vehicles now as a loyal customer base, you've already you're already way ahead of your competition, who's going to wait until there's, everything's on back order. All the customers are going to, the Sammy's next door. They're all going to be loyal to that place. And then when you finally decide that you're going to put electric vehicle chargers in, well, you're going to have to wait for the next generation to start driving before you can grab all of that loyalty. And so I think it's very important to get them installed now. Obviously, also because there's a lot of government incentive right now, rebates and whatnot, and tax credits.
Well, I have to stop you on that one, and the reason it is because my understanding, also talking to a lot of people, right, and what I see also that is currently a biggest issue is, yes, people hear about there is tax incentives, rebates, federal government grants and money over there in a pipeline for people to use and to be helping them actually to electrify and put themselves on a faster track. However, it's so difficult to get it. It's not over there all the time available. There is requirements and stuff like that. And I believe so that's a big misconception, one of the misconceptions, that people are thinking that it's so easy to get to that money and that it is so easy to get that to their infrastructure or, let's say, property being installed free of charge. So
yeah, no.
Yeah, let's look at that.
The only thing that I think is beneficial, right, is the tax rebate. Like if you can, everyone's gonna have to pay for them upfront. I mean, that really needs to be something that people understand. There's not going to be free chargers. There's not going to be free installation because those installers have to feed their families, and the manufacturers have to feed their families, and the people that sell the equipment have to feed their families. So there's no free upfront. And how the government works is they always do reimbursement. So it's really difficult to maneuver right now because the regulations are coming down, things are changing, and everything has to be rolled out through these, requests for proposals and then a competitive process, and once contracts are earned or won or whatever, then that company has to still purchase all the equipment up front, has to do the installing, and then once it's open and ready and to the public and been approved, and then they can apply for a reimbursement amount, which is not even 100% actually, but that's usually for the companies who are doing the equipment sales and installations. But for the property owners, there are rebates that are or tax credits, I should say, I guess, that are fairly, but I do know that the accountants know, and so like your accountant will know how to handle that at the end of the year, just like the year before last was the first time I'd ever traded stock money on Robinhood or Webull, and I did it a lot. And then I took my reports to the accountant, and she was like, "Oh wow!" And
yeah, but either way, all this equipment and the upfront cost, it's also tax deductible at the end of the year.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot. Obviously, this capital expenditure, it's helping the community. It's definitely, there's all kinds of deductions that can be taken, but anything that's new for tax incentives, or whatever, the accountants are going to be up to date on that. So we don't have to know all of that for the property owners. More as business owners that are installers and equipment sellers, those are the people that have to really navigate the funding that is so hard to get. And that is what, we want to talk about that. That could take another hour. It's a lot to go through, but the property owners, really the benefit is going to be at the end of it's going to be at tax time.
Yeah. Well, Kimberly, thank you for your time and knowledge and information, given to our public and listeners. I believe so that there is still more to talk about this, and as you said, yes, we can probably talk about all these things, hours, if not days,
right.
Because there is such a vast of information over there. But at least some of the bulletins that we kind of tackled today, I believe so, and I hope so that the majority of the listeners will be helpful to them, how to actually venture in the future. So thank you again for your time.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Pleasure. Well, that would be all for today's episode. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And please give us your feedback, questions to our email so that we can know, and we would like to bring more of the information to you, answers to your questions. So don't be shy. Feel free to write us and ask questions, and we're going to answer. Thank you very much for listening, and until next time.